The last of 19 total individuals who were charged in a major drug trafficking organization was sentenced this morning. This was a multi-state drug trafficking organization, involved mainly West Virginia, but also involved Ohio and Kentucky. Law enforcement, as part of this investigation, seized more than 47 pounds of fentanyl, 6.5 pounds of methamphetamine, 4.5 pounds of cocaine, 2 pounds of heroin, over 14 firearms, including a couple of assault-type rifles, and over $330,000 in cash. Here with me today is Assistant Special Agent in Charge Scott Argero of the FBI Pittsburgh Field Office. He'll be addressing you all here in just a moment. We also have Senior Supervisory Resident Agent Alan Davis of the Huntington Resident Agency. We have Sheriff Chuck Zirkle of the Cabell County Sheriff's Department. We have the Director of Public Safety, Jim Terry of the Marshall University Police Department, and Joe Adams, who was one of the Assistant U.S. Attorneys who handled this prosecution. I want to address you at the conclusion of our other speakers, and then we'll open up for questions at that point. Mr. Argero?
Thank you, U.S. Attorney Thompson. As he mentioned, my name is Assistant Special Agent in Charge Scott Argero. I am here representing the FBI, covering Western Pennsylvania, and in this case, all of West Virginia, and in particular our Huntington office here locally. It's a great day for law enforcement. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the impact that this 2-year multi-agency drug investigation encompassed. It was a significant impact to the community here. 19 defendants, as the U.S. Attorneys mentioned, and significant sentences, significant drugs taken off the streets. The impact here today is monumental. There's been development in the city. There's been, impact to the community here that's been disrupted, and that's going to change as of today. The efforts today put forth by our Huntington special agents and our task force, most notably those who stand behind me. Marshall University Police Department, represented here today by Chief Terry, and the Cabell County Sheriff's Office, represented today by Sheriff Zirkle, is a valued impact. The collaboration efforts here could not be done by one agency, one person. The FBI cannot do this alone. We need the support of our local law enforcement. We need the support of our other federal agencies to make this impact. And today you're seeing the impact of that. While these groups and their associates represent a very small segment of society, their lifestyles, choices, illicit activities cause untold suffering and loss to many others. In addition to trafficking narcotics, this group was responsible for violent behavior that slowed neighborhood revitalization and overall community growth, as I mentioned. This area has been plagued by illegal drugs and fears of violence for a long time, and we couldn't let that continue to happen. That's why our partnership here is so important and allows us to combine our tools, skills, and knowledge to create a stronger team. The sentences handed down today and to the rest of the subjects in this investigation reflect the tireless efforts of the FBI and our law enforcement partners to investigate criminal enterprises operating within our communities and bring justice to those who endanger the public health and safety. And these efforts are not to go unrecognized by law enforcement. They are working weekends, they're working nights, they're working long hours and through the holidays. When you are at home sleeping and resting, that's the reason why, because they're out there serving the public and making this a safer place. For them, this investigation was all about making the community safer. I'm going to close out with a quote that's on the walls of our FBI headquarters by J. Edgar Hoover. The most effective weapon against crime is cooperation, the efforts of all law enforcement agencies and the support and understanding of the American people. That's how we accomplish our mission, through the support, the trust of the American people, the understanding of the community, and with all of our partners here. So thank you for your time.
Sheriff Zirkle.
Thank you. Chuck Zirkle, Cabell County Sheriff. One of the hardest things to do, I've been in law enforcement over 30 years, is when you start these drug investigations, when you start making some good progress, you want to tell people about it. It's hard to kind of sit on your hands, but this is a classic example of the long work and time that it took to take down these individuals who were sentenced over 100 years. the amount of fentanyl that was brought into this town, that would have been brought into this town, is mind-boggling. 42 pounds would have killed hundreds of thousands of people. But the government always has swift and strict penalties. This was the smart thing to do, was to go federal with all these charges. And it also didn't put a burden on Cabell County or the taxpayers of Cabell County. Thank you.
I want to make sure all the agencies that participated get recognized today. This, of course, was ran by the FBI Southern West Virginia TOC West Task Force. That consists of officers with the Cabell County Sheriff's Office, the Hurricane Police Department, the Marshall University Police Department. Support was also given on this investigation from the West Virginia State Police, the Drug Enforcement Agency, and the Violent Crime and Drug Task Force West. The Ohio Highway Patrol also helped, as well as the Kentucky State Police and the FBI and DEA offices in Columbus, Ohio. I want to talk just a little bit about some of the major defendants we had. First was a gentleman named Scott Midkiff. He pled guilty to a count of conspiracy to distribute methamphetamine and fentanyl. He was one of the main targets of this investigation. During this conspiracy, Midkiff frequently obtained quantities of methamphetamine and fentanyl to distribute to various customers in the Huntington area. Midkiff provided the drugs to customers on consignment and was aware his customers intended to redistribute the drugs. Midkiff also admitted that he participated in arranging drug transactions by steering customers to certain drug dealers when the customers would contact Midkiff. Mr. Midkiff was sentenced to 17 years of incarceration. William Byrd was also a main target of this. He pled guilty to the conspiracy to distribute 400 grams or more of fentanyl and 5 kilograms or more of cocaine. During the conspiracy, Byrd frequently received shipments of fentanyl and cocaine, which were transported from Columbus, Ohio, to Huntington by vehicle. For each shipment, Byrd received a minimum of 1 kilogram of fentanyl and 1 kilogram of cocaine. These drugs were provided to Byrd on consignment, and Byrd would pay for the drugs after he distributed them in Huntington. Byrd further admitted he had operated 2 residences in Huntington as locations to accept shipments and distribute the drugs. He was arrested back July 29th of last year. A search warrant was executed at his house where a number of items were recovered, including 2 firearms and over $113,000 in cash. Byrd admitted that he had possessed the firearms and the money constituted proceeds from drug sales. On January 31st of this year, Mr. Byrd was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Christopher Vest pled guilty to a count 1, a conspiracy to distribute methamphetamine and fentanyl. Vest frequently obtained quantities of methamphetamine, fentanyl, and cocaine to distribute to various customers in the Huntington area. Vest provided drugs to customers on consignment and was aware his customers intended to redistribute the drugs. Vest also admitted he operated 2 residences in Huntington as locations to receive deliveries and distribute drugs. He also was arrested on July 29th. They seized 4 firearms from his residence as well as $86,000 in U.S. currency, admitted he possessed the firearms and the money constituted proceeds from drug sales. There was also search warrants executed at another residence operated by Vest. During that search, over 1 kilogram of cocaine was found, 800 grams of fentanyl, and 450 grams of methamphetamine that Vest intended to redistribute, and 2 additional firearms. He was sentenced to 12 years and 6 months in prison. I'm not going to go through the remaining people in the indictment, but we do have a press release available that will discuss each of their involvements and the sentences they received. One of the main reasons I think I took this job and was chosen for this job is the drug epidemic that this district faces. It's a problem that even though we're taking 47 pounds of fentanyl off the street today, that doesn't mean the problem's fixed. I mean, it's a problem we'll be fighting for a long time. I would like to note that West Virginia did get some really good news lately on the drug epidemic. Actually, our overdoses went down 3.6%, which was the second largest decrease in the nation. Actually, the overdose rate for the nation went up 9.7%. Fentanyl accounts for over 3/4 of our overdoses in West Virginia. I don't have any scientific evidence to prove this, but I think removing 47 pounds of fentanyl in all likelihood saved several lives, perhaps contributing in a small way in decline to our overdose deaths. With that being said, I now open it up to questions.
Can you explain a little bit about the street value of those drugs? When you're talking about 47 pounds of fentanyl.
I'm going to defer to one of the experts here as far, I mean, that's a lot. I don't know what a pound of fentanyl is currently going for. It'd be millions of dollars. We don't have an actual number, and we work on getting that for you. Okay? Other questions?
What does it mean to have those off the streets now, knowing that our community is a little bit safer now?
I think that's the most important part. It's made our community a tad bit safer. The fact that fentanyl, like I said, is a very dangerous drug. I've spoken on it before. The overdose rate is just being driven by fentanyl that's coming in. 47 pounds is a significant quantity of fentanyl. I think if you did the lethal dosage, you'll get over 10 million lethal doses out of fentanyl, which is 5 times the population of West Virginia. So I think it did make, now do I think that we removed all the fentanyl from the street? No, unfortunately it's a problem we're going to continue to fight. However, I think this did make a significant impact on it. And the 3 individuals I talked about were long-time known drug dealers in this community, and getting them off the street for 10 plus, 12 plus years, 17 years, I think is going to have an impact.
Can you speak on with the job that you do when you have a lot of different departments involved, how helpful is that?
It's one of the things that it's very important that we get everybody working together. We have task forces put together. There's, I think, 3 task forces operating in Huntington alone right now. And it brings in all the different agencies where they work together, they share information, they share intelligence, and that's why we're able to accomplish what we are. This is way too big a problem for any single agency to tackle by itself, and the fact that we have all these partners is why we're able to have successes such as we had today. Other questions? All right. We'll get you that one number, and we will also, there is a press release available for everybody that has a lot more of the information about the remaining defendants I did not go through, and I thank you all for attending.